Hello, hello, lovely internet people. I'm Daniel, and this is Driving and Dragons, where we talk about tabletop role-playing games while we drive, restore, and give away cars. Yes, that's right. This channel has a mission to give away cars to members of the TTRPG community. I also have a mission to help you have better gaming experiences at your tables with your friends, regardless of the way you choose to play. That's why I have series like this one, where I point out how you're doing it wrong when it comes to giving out the loot in your tabletop games. While you're here, consider leaving a super thanks, joining my Patreon, or signing up as a YouTube member to help support everything I do here on the channel. If you can't fit the channel into your Christmas budget this year, you can still help us grow for free by sharing this content on your own social media page and by hyping and liking the video. The comment section is always lively, and I do personally respond to virtually every comment in the sections, so feel free to tell me why I'm right or why you're wrong below. On my X profile right now, link pinned in the comment below, I am currently posting polls on the fantastic artwork provided by Rob Necronomicon for my upcoming Corvid Codex pulp anthology. 7 stories, 6 authors, 2 artists, and all the sci-fi, fantasy, and cyberpunk pulp action that the modern publishing giants have deprived you of for years. Either a Kickstarter or pre-orders will be coming very soon, so be on the lookout to join the modern Appendix N revolution. That's enough hawking my own products. On with the show. Loot is an integral part of the TTRPG zeitgeist. Doesn't matter how you play, honestly. In the old school dungeon crawling adventure style that Basic, BECME, BX, AD&D, and all the OSR clones thereof promoted, loot is literally the goal. Even after the Hickman Revolution, the narrative focus still had loot playing key elements. Let's go beyond D&D here. The Hobbit is the birth of fantasy literature. It's a quest for loot, with early loot found in a troll cave and loot found in the riddle contest. Probably half of Conan's adventures were him seeking loot. We go out to find the Orb of Alder, the Sword of Shannara, the Ring of Erithak Bay, and the Dragonlance. It isn't like this is a fantasy-only thing either. We seek out Death Star plans, and we go to Mexico to access the armory before we fight the killer robot. We live life in the fast lane one job at a time, stealing corpo credits and prototype cyberware. And we screw our campaigns up beyond belief on the regular by paying far too little attention to the loot that we include in our games. Loot is one of those things that is an unsung hero when done right, and an overlooked culprit when done wrong. Why do we fail to give our loot its due regard? That's a mystery in and of itself. But we can discuss the ways we screw it up and try and prevent them. Stick around, because while some of these I'm sure you've heard of before, the last one is a bit more nuanced than the loot mistakes that I've heard before. So number 1, too much. Too much loot comes in a lot of forms, all of them bad. It isn't simply characters that turn into Elon Musk level mega wealths by level 5, and it isn't just that gold for XP turning into instant levels, and too much loot in sheer quantity starts turning your adventuring party into an accounting firm. Too much loot spoils your party for choice and makes everything seem dull and boring here. Yay, another magic sword. This one does acid damage. Put it over there by the one that does fire or the one that does ice. There's a famous experiment where people are sent into 2 different ice cream shops. One has chocolate and vanilla, the other has 20 flavors. The customer satisfaction was significantly higher in the shop that only had the 2 choices, because the people were confident in their choice. The customers in shop 2 were constantly second-guessing, wondering if they should have gone with the butter pecan instead. And they should have, because butter pecan is by far the best. This happens to your players when the loot fairy floods their matching set of Louis Vuitton bags of holding with endless loot. Number 2, too little. Did you guess that? You're so smart. There are many occasions where restricting resources can add depth and challenge to a game. It is an exciting white-knuckle adventure when you face normally mundane challenges, but have to do so without all your gear or with serious limits on your resources. Hell, there's even a case to be made for an entire campaign of dire struggle. But here's the thing about pressure and struggle. Eventually you grow numb to it. Despondent players lose their highs and lows, and the next thing you know, they're just going through the motions of a dead campaign. It's the difference between going on a survival camping trip and just being homeless in the woods. When your players fight, they fight and scrape and crawl and continually get nothing for it, that eventually leads to the question of why adventure at all. Adventurers typically adventure because braving deadly peril results in great rewards. I'm not risking dragonfire to get a week's wages and a whetstone to restore my sword to the condition it was in when I started. If that's all there is, I'll just use the sword to make a plow blade and be a farmer. When a GM gets too loot stingy, it breaks the immersion while making the players feel cheated at the same time. You're just asking for a laundry list of excuses why players can't make it to next week's game. Number 3, too powerful. Often mistaken for number 1 is the handing out of overpowered loot. This can cause a host of issues in the game. Only one character can really use the overpowered loot. Okay, everyone's pissed off at your favoritism. Overpowered loot has drawbacks that try to balance it. Why did you give it to us if, we can't use it? If you give challenges that match the loot, it's murderous to anyone not using the overpowered items. And if you challenge the party, the busted loot puts it on easy mode and the game quickly gets boring. It's also, you guessed it, immersion breaking. Why are we not constantly being accosted by powerful enemies seeking to get rid of or take this item for themselves? Why was this super powerful loot sitting in a room with a bunch of far lower level enemies that simply ignored it, swinging their old woodman's axe at me while the +5 axe of infinite death strokes and free popsicles sat in a box 10 feet away? Why am I being trusted with the ultimate powerful mega super frame from the from the mega corporation to go handle some street level punks? These things are outsized and they don't make sense. Loot, especially gear, is a great lesson in compound interest as well. You start trying to give a little bit to each player, and the next thing you know, the only way you can challenge the exponentially powered up party is by challenging them unfairly. Congratulations, you've ensured that the only roles that actually matter now are the initiative roll and then whatever gets rolled to make new characters. Because bad guy or good guy, combat's now going to be decided entirely by initiative. And just a little side note here, you're going to notice a pattern. The problems that, quote-unquote, favor the players cause players to ask questions, get out of hand quickly, and are pretty difficult to address. It's kind of hard to unring that bell. The problems that are to the players' quote-unquote detriment are much easier to fix. You just, give them more powerful stuff, give them more money, whatever the case may be. But they're insidious in that by the time you recognize you goofed up, those players have often been beaten into such a paste that the damage is already done and there's just no fixing it. They find the +5 Vorpal longsword and they're like, oh, wow, that would have been nice 10 levels ago. Number 4, underpowered. This one is many times an overcorrection. A GM blew the last game up, so this time he's keeping the key to the toy chest under tight security. That is, until he forgets to also adjust the encounter difficulty to boot, and now his players are halfway through a dungeon, basically trapped and out of ammo with no chance of success. Underpowering players leads to a feeling of having the deck stacked against them, and that just breeds bad feelings and disharmony at the table. Like numbers 3 and 1, this is not the same thing as number 2, too little. You can have very wealthy players with a tremendous amount of loot. However, when your vast armory to storm the HQ of Militech Corporation amounts to the Nerf aisle at Toys R Us, all those resources don't really matter. There are some of you out there in the hex crawl world doing your best impersonation of that meme from the Sparkle Vampire movie with the snooty nobles right now. You think that rolling everything on random tables solves this completely? Well, you think wrong. The least satisfying thing in the TTRPG world is saying, well, the dice have spoken because a random die roll led to your level 3 party getting nuked by an ancient red dragon. The most angering thing, however, is when the random tables have your high-level fighting man taking out a 6th mortgage on his castle to pay to get to level 9, only to have him randomly executed by a demon that he should have had no issue with, except his lack of a magic sword rendered it invincible because those random tables were not properly curated and didn't ensure that there was some level of balance to the game. If you are going to play the Hexcrawl random table game, it is important to play it correctly, by which I mean curating those tables in advance to ensure that there is some ability to predict and prevent, as well as a certain amount of logic in what is on those tables, both loot and encounter. So what is number 5? The one I said is a tad bit more nuanced than the others. Number 5 is inappropriate loot. Ever had that guy who insists on a slapstick joke character in your World War I trapped in the trenches game? Or the dude who chooses to take absolutely everything dead serious in the Unicorn Rainbow Dimension adventure? Their characters and the players who play them suck. They suck because they know that what they are doing is deliberately shattering the immersion and the tone of the game for everyone else. And this also happens with loot in two opposite and often overlooked ways. First is Santa Claus loot. Oh, look, Dorothy, we killed the wizard, and in the chest is a brain for the scarecrow, a heart for the Tin Man, and a spine for the lion. Isn't that just the damnedest luck? Something for everybody. Your fighter uses a halberd, and apparently so does every great warrior throughout antiquity, because we've crawled through 5 dungeons and found 5 ancient halberds. Each one just so happens to be a little bit more powerful than the last one. And that's to say nothing of game balance, which takes into account decisions like, do I use the sword that I took all the feats and special training for, or the flail that has the cool magic powers? This is also a deadly trap in terms of realistic and living world questions. You take it away and it's, you're deliberately cheating me of my loot. You don't take it away and it's just a loot treadmill where each adventure is just a quest for slightly better pants. Players pick up on this too, when they're always finding exactly what they need to, quote, beat the next area like they're playing a Zelda game. And it leads to overpowered parties as everybody gets a big boost like it's Oprah waiting at the bottom of every tomb and crypt. Instead of a slight increase in one area, say melee abilities, we get an across-the-board increase that just makes for an outsized impact, and that just gets worse each time it happens. And it just feels like the worst kind of video game. Like newer Final Fantasy games, hallway simulator with shinier boots at the end of every level for each person. Yippee! I run here, I hear some story stuff, I pick up my new boots. Great. The second flavor is when the loot doesn't match the world. This is a big issue with random tables. You're running a gritty, realistic campaign, and the nation you're in uses broad-bladed spears to the point that they're symbols of status. They use kite shields and long knives as a sidearm. So why are we finding axes, greatswords, maces, and other items that in no way fit the regional aesthetic here? And I'm not talking about, I found Excalibur, but everything else is spears and shields. I'm talking like it's all axes and flails galore everywhere, and I don't see a spear in sight because I didn't roll one on the random table. Finding everything but the weapons and items and things that the society has built its heraldic mythology around, it's just messed up. It's where is the stuff that this civilization was built on? Why does this not make sense? It starts in the back of the player's head. By the time it gets to the front and you recognize it, it's too late. In our desperate rundown world, why are we finding top-of-the-line cybernetics in the best of the best firearms? Our elite special forces game, why is the armory filled with worn-out last-generation trash? Loot should, especially in narrative games, have a purpose. It should be deliberate. You want to randomize it? Make a table and make sure that that table includes appropriate options to fit the theme, the power level, and the tone of your game. Done right, no one will ever really remember the loot, but they will remember the campaign. That's what I've got for you today, folks. Tell me why you think I'm wrong in the comments. I do expect a bunch of grognards unironically yelling about real world not being fair and reality is random with their random tables while completely missing the point that Random does not mean finding Arctic furs in an equatorial volcano or fighting a polar bear in the pyramids. I'll see you guys next time.